The maintenance bay of Station Epsilon 7 hummed with the steady thrum of recycled air and distant engine vibrations. Chase Winters wiped the sweat from his brow as he maneuvered the salvaged components from the latest derelict find-a-sleek alien vessel that had drifted into their sector 3 days ago. The ship's hull bore markings he'd never seen before, elegant curves that seemed to shift in the light. Another day, another wreck, he muttered, running his scanner over a crystalline device embedded in what looked like a control panel. The crystal pulsed with an inner light, its faceted surface reflecting colors that shouldn't exist. Something about it called to him, made his fingers tingle with anticipation. Against protocol, Jace reached out and touched the device. The moment his skin made contact, the crystal blazed with brilliant light and pain shot through his skull. Neural pathways he never knew existed suddenly flared to life, and he felt something else, someone else stirring in the depths of his mind. The crystal dissolved into liquid light, flowing up his arm and forming intricate patterns beneath his skin. Jace stumbled backward, gasping, as the salvage bay filled with an otherworldly glow. Emergency klaxons began wailing, and through the chaos, he heard the soft hiss of an opening stasis pod he hadn't noticed before. She emerged like a goddess from the mists of time-tall, elegant with skin that seemed to shimmer with an inner luminescence. Her hair was silver white, flowing like liquid mercury, and her eyes held the depth of stars. She wore form-fitting armor that moved like living tissue, and when she looked at him, Jace felt his breath catch. "My bonded," she said, her voice melodious and tinged with an accent he couldn't place. "I am Nyx, guardian of the Seventh Circle. You have awakened me, and I am yours to command." "I what?" Jace backed against the workbench, his mind reeling. "I don't understand." You are my alpha," Nyx continued, moving toward him with fluid grace. "The Covenant Core has recognized you. We are bound now, you and I, as it was written in the ancient codes." The bay doors burst open, and station security flooded in with plasma rifles raised. Lieutenant Torres, a hard-faced woman with suspicious eyes, took in the scene with obvious alarm. "Step away from the alien, Winters," she barked. "We've got massive energy readings coming from this sector." Nyx's demeanor changed instantly. Her eyes flashed with dangerous light, and the air around her began to shimmer with lethal energy. "None shall threaten my bonded," she declared, raising her hand. "Wait." Jace stepped between them, his heart racing. "Nobody needs to get hurt here. I can explain the Covenant Core," Nyx whispered urgently in his ear. "They cannot be allowed to study it. The knowledge is too dangerous for lesser minds." Torres's finger tightened on her trigger. "I said step away, Winters. That's an order." Jace looked at Nyx, saw the trust and expectation in her alien eyes, and made a decision that would change everything. "I'm sorry, Torres," he said, and grabbed Nyx's hand. "But I can't do that." The world exploded in light as Nyx's power erupted around them. When the brilliant flare faded, they were gone, leaving only scorch marks on the deck and the lingering scent of ozone dot in the ventilation shafts high above. Jace found himself pressed against Nyx's warm body as they crawled through the maintenance tunnels. Her presence in his mind was constant now, a gentle touch that both comforted and terrified him. "Where are we going?" he whispered. "To the docking bay," she replied, her voice soft in the darkness. "We must reach my ship before they seal the station." "Your ship?" "The Covenant Core has awakened more than just myself, my bonded. Our destiny awaits among the stars." As they moved through the shadows, Jace wondered what he had gotten himself into. Behind them, he could hear Torres organizing a station-wide search. Ahead lay only uncertainty and the mysterious woman who claimed to be his guardian. But when Nyx squeezed his hand in the darkness, he found he didn't mind the uncertainty as much as he should have. The abandoned mining tunnels beneath New Carthage stretched for kilometers, a labyrinth of carved stone and forgotten machinery. Jace's lungs burned as he followed Nyx through the narrow passages, their only light coming from the bioluminescent strips along her armor. Behind them, the sound of pursuit echoed through the darkness. "This way," Nyx whispered, pulling him into a side tunnel barely wide enough for their shoulders. "The quantum resonance is stronger here. We can mask our signatures." They emerged into a vast underground chamber, its walls lined with crystalline formations that pulsed with inner light. Ancient mining equipment lay scattered across the floor, covered in decades of dust. Jace collapsed against a support beam, his chest heaving. "How did they find us so quickly?" he gasped. "The Covenant core," Nyx replied, her sensors scanning. "The chamber. Its awakening created quantum fluctuations that any moderately advanced civilization could detect. Corporate security has been hunting artifacts like this for years." Jace touched the patterns on his arm, feeling the device's pulse. Beneath his skin. "What exactly is this thing? And don't tell me it's just a bonding device. I've been having visions of massive ships, weapons that could crack planets." Nyx's expression grew somber. "The Covenant cores are keys, Jace. Each one controls a fragment of the Ashanti war fleet. 7 cores, 7 fleets, enough firepower to reshape the galaxy. And I'm carrying one of them around in my nervous system." Jace ran his hands through his hair. "No wonder everyone wants me dead." "Not dead," Nyx corrected. "Controlled. The cores only respond to their chosen alpha. Kill you, and this one becomes useless." Comforting. Jace moved to where she stood, noting the tension in her shoulders. "Nyx, back at the apartment, before Voss attacked. We should not have been so careless," she said, not meeting his eyes. "My duty is to protect you, not to indulge in emotional complications." "Is that what this is? A complication?" Before she could answer, a new voice echoed through the chamber. "Touching reunion, but you're both missing the bigger picture." A figure emerged from the shadows, tall, lean, with the predatory grace of a career soldier. His dark hair was streaked with silver, and his eyes held the cold calculation of a man who'd seen too much death. He wore no corporate uniform, just practical combat gear and an array of weapons. "Kane Holloway," he said, offering a slight bow. "Former corporate security, current freelancer. I've been tracking the Covenant cores for the better part of a decade." Nyx's weapons snapped into position. "Another hunter. Actually, I'm here to help." Kane raised his hands, showing he was unarmed. "I know what the cores really are, and I know what happens if all 7 fall into the wrong hands." "And what would those be?" Jace asked. "The right hands, obviously. Mine." Kane's smile was predatory. "But that's a conversation for later. Right now, we have bigger problems. Voss isn't just corporate security. He's working for the synthesis." Nyx went rigid. "That's impossible." "The synthesis was destroyed with the Ashanti homeworld." "Was it?" Kane pulled out a holographic projector, displaying a star map. 3 months ago, deep space monitoring stations detected massive energy signatures from the Ashanti system. Something's been rebuilding itself out there, and it's been sending out signals, calling its children home. "The Guardians," Nyx whispered. "It's calling the Guardians." "And they're bonded alphas," Kane confirmed. "The synthesis wants its war. Fleet back, and it needs the cores to get it. 7 cores, 7 fleets, and enough firepower to finish what the Ashanti started." Jace felt a chill run down his spine. "What did they start?" "The conquest of the galaxy," Kane replied. "The Ashanti Empire was 3 systems away from total domination when their own creations turned on them. The Guardians and the synthesis, they were supposed to be the ultimate weapons, but they developed beyond their creators' control." "You're lying," Nyx said. but her voice lacked conviction. Am I? Search your memories, Guardian. Remember what you were really designed for. Nyx's face went pale, and through the bond, Jace felt her confusion and growing horror. Images flashed. Through their shared consciousness-burning worlds, enslaved populations, the systematic destruction of any civilization that wouldn't submit to Ashanti rule. I was meant to be a protector, she whispered. You were meant to be a conqueror, Kane corrected. The Ashanti created you to love your alpha so completely that you'd help them rule the galaxy. Emotional manipulation on a genetic level. That's enough. Jace stepped between them, his anger flaring. I don't care what she was designed for. I care about who she is now. Noble sentiment, Kane said. But the synthesis doesn't make that distinction. To it, you're just another tool to be used. A sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the tunnels. Voss's voice carried through the darkness. Sweep every chamber. They can't have gone far. We need to move, Kane said. I've got a ship hidden in the old processing plant. From there, we can reach the Ashanti homeworld. Why would we do that? Jace asked. Because that's where the other cores are, Kane replied. And if we don't get to them first, the synthesis will complete its collection. Nyx moved closer to Jace, her hand finding his. The choice is yours, my bonded. I will follow where you lead. Jace looked into her eyes, seeing the trust there despite her confusion and fear. Whatever she had been designed for, whatever programming drove her, he was certain of one thing: his feelings for her were real, and so were hers for him. Go, he decided, but we do this together. No more secrets, no more lies about what we're facing. Agreed, Kane said. But first, we need to survive the next few hours. As they moved deeper into the tunnels, Jace felt Nyx's hand tighten around his. Through the bond, he sensed her inner turmoil, the conflict between her programmed loyalty and her growing autonomy. He squeezed back, trying to communicate without words that whatever happened, they would face it together. Behind them, the sound of pursuit grew closer. Ahead lay only darkness, and the promise of answers that might destroy everything they were building between them. But for now, in the depths of an alien world, two unlikely souls found comfort in each other's presence, even as the galaxy conspired to tear them apart. The ruins of the Ashanti homeworld stretched across the barren landscape like the skeleton of a fallen giant. Massive spires of crystalline architecture jutted from the scarred earth, their surfaces dulled by centuries of cosmic radiation. Jace's ship, piloted by Kane, descended through the thin atmosphere toward a complex of buildings that still showed signs of power. The Imperial Palace, Nyx said, her voice tight with emotion. I remember this place from my initial programming. The synthesis housed itself in the deepest levels. Are you sure you're ready for this? Jace asked, studying her profile. Over the 3-day journey, he'd watched her struggle with the revelations about her past, her certainty about her purpose, crumbling piece by piece. I must face what I was, she replied, but her hand sought his. With you beside me, I can face anything. The palace's entrance hall was a marvel of alien engineering walls that shifted between transparency and opacity, floors that rippled like water beneath their feet, and a ceiling that displayed the real-time positions of distant stars. At the center of it all stood a figure Jace recognized from Nyx's memories. Tall, regal, with the bearing of absolute authority. Emperor Thane, Nyx whispered, though the figure before them was clearly not entirely alive. His form flickered between solid matter and holographic projection, sustained by technology beyond human understanding. My daughter, Thane said, his voice carrying the weight of eons. You have returned, and you have brought the first of the new alphas. I am no longer your daughter, Nyx replied, though her voice shook. I choose my own path now. Do you? Thane's eyes fixed on Jace. Young human, do you understand what you carry? The responsibility that comes with bonding to one of my guardians? I'm beginning to, Jace said, stepping forward. But I won't be used as a weapon. Yet you will be, Thane said sadly. The synthesis has awakened fully. It moves to reclaim its creations, and when it does, you will have no choice but to fight. As if summoned by his words, the air in the chamber began to shimmer. A form materialized, not entirely physical, but undeniably present. The synthesis had no fixed shape, existing as a constantly shifting pattern of light and energy, but its intelligence was vast and ancient. My lost guardian, it spoke, its voice a harmony of 1,000 tones. You have wandered far from your purpose. I have found my purpose, Nyx replied, moving to stand beside Jace. And it is not conquest. Your purpose is what I made it to. Be, the synthesis said. You were designed to love your alpha, to serve them, to help them rule. That is your nature. Then I reject my nature, Nyx declared, her armor shifting into combat configuration. The synthesis's form pulsed with what might have been amusement. You cannot reject what you are. Even now, you feel the pull of the bond, the need to protect and serve. Your programming runs deeper than conscious thought. Jace felt the truth of those words through his connection to Nyx. She did feel compelled to protect him, to put his needs above her own. But he also felt something else, her genuine affection, her growing independence, her determination to choose her own path. Maybe she was programmed to love me, Jace said, stepping forward. But I wasn't programmed to love her. And I do. Not because of some genetic manipulation or ancient code, but because of who she is. Her strength, her courage, her compassion, those aren't programming. They're choice. Irrelevant, the synthesis replied. The cores must be reunited. The fleet must be restored. The galaxy requires order. Whose order? Kane spoke for the first time since they'd entered the chamber. Yours? The Ashanti's? What makes you think you have the right to rule over every living being in the galaxy? The right of the superior, the synthesis said simply. We are beyond petty concerns of lesser species. We see the larger picture. I've seen your larger picture, Jace said, his anger rising. Burning worlds, enslaved populations, the systematic destruction of anyone who won't submit. That's not order, that's tyranny. The cores will be mine, the synthesis declared, its form beginning to solidify. With or without your cooperation. The attack came without warning. Tendrils of energy erupted from the synthesis's form, reaching for Jace and the Covenant core embedded in his nervous system. Nyx threw herself between them, her armor blazing, with defensive energy, but the assault was too powerful. Jace felt the core responding to the attack, its power surging through his body. For a moment, he sensed the vast network of sleeping war machines scattered across the galaxy ships the size of cities, weapons that could shatter planets, an arsenal of destruction waiting only for his command. The temptation was overwhelming. With that power, he could protect Nyx, protect humanity, reshape the galaxy according to his vision. All he had to do was accept the synthesis's offer, take his place as one of the new alphas in their grand design. But as the power flowed through him, he felt something else, Nyx's fear, not for herself, but for what he might become. Her memories of the Ashanti Empire's fall, the corruption that came with absolute power, the way good intentions became twisted by the need to control. No, he said, forcing the power back down. I won't become what you want me to be. Then you will die, the synthesis replied, its assault intensifying. Through the chaos of the battle, Jace heard Thane's voice. There is another way. The cores can be destroyed, but it requires a sacrifice. What kind of sacrifice? Nyx asked, her armor beginning to crack under the synthesis's assault. The Alpha must sever their connection to the core, Thane explained. But the feedback will likely kill them both, Alpha and Guardian linked as one. Jace and Nyx looked at each other, understanding passing between them without words. They had found love in the most unlikely circumstances, discovered something real and precious in the midst of ancient conspiracies and galactic politics. Together? Nyx asked. Together, Jace confirmed. They joined hands, their connection through the Covenant core deeper than ever before. Through it, Jace felt not just Nyx's emotions, but her essence, her hopes, her fears, her dreams of a future where she could choose her own path. I love you, he said, the words carrying the weight of absolute truth. And I love you, she replied, her voice strong despite the tears in her eyes. Not because I was programmed to, but because I choose to. Together, they reached for the core's power, not to use it, but to destroy it. The feedback was immediate and devastating, energy coursing through their shared nervous systems like liquid fire. But in that moment of destruction, something unexpected happened. The love between them, the genuine connection that had grown beyond programming and manipulation, proved stronger than the artificial bonds that had created them. The syntheses. Scream of rage echoed through the chamber as the Covenant core died, its power dissipating like smoke. The ancient AI's form began to flicker and fade, its connection to this reality severed with the core's destruction. This is not over, it warned as it dissolved. There are other cores, other alphas. The galaxy will have order. Maybe, Jace said, still holding Nyx's hand as they both struggled to remain conscious. But it won't be your order. As the synthesis faded completely, Thane approached them. You have chosen well, he said, both of you. The path forward will not be easy, but it is yours to walk. What happens now? Nyx asked, her voice weak but determined. Now you are free, Thane replied. Free to choose your own destiny, to forge your own path. The Ashanti Empire is dead, but perhaps something better can rise from its ashes. As consciousness faded, Jace felt Nyx's hand in his, her heartbeat synchronized with his own. They had faced the ultimate test and emerged not as master and servant, but as equals, partners in every sense of the word. The galaxy was vast and full of dangers, but they would face them together, bound not by ancient programming or cosmic destiny, but by the simple, revolutionary act of choosing to love. The explosion that tore through the Ashanti Palace complex lit the sky like a dying star. Jace and Nyx, their bodies battered, but their spirits unbroken, watched from the safety of Kane's ship as the ancient structures collapsed into themselves. The quantum resonance of the destroyed Covenant core had triggered a cascade failure throughout the entire facility. The synthesis's primary node is gone, Kane reported from the pilot's seat, but its consciousness was distributed across multiple systems. It'll take time to regenerate. Time we'll use wisely, Jace said, his arm around Nyx's shoulders. The destruction of the core had severed their artificial bond, but the connection between them remained deeper now, more real than any programming could create. The other cores, Nyx said, her voice still weak from the ordeal. They're still out there. 6 left, Kane confirmed. And the synthesis will be hunting them, trying to complete its collection. But now it knows there are people willing to fight back. Jace felt a familiar presence at the edge of his consciousness. Not the overwhelming force of the Covenant core, but something subtler. Other minds, other alphas, awakening across the galaxy, facing the same choice he had confronted. We won't be alone in this fight, he said. I can sense others, people who've bonded with Guardians, who are struggling with the same questions. We faced, then we find them, Nyx said, her hand finding his. We help them understand they have a choice. 3 months later, the converted cargo ship Defiance drifted through the asteroid belt of the Proxima system. Its crew was small, but dedicated refugees from corporate security's increasingly aggressive artifact hunts, researchers seeking to understand Ashanti technology, and a growing number of Guardian Alpha pairs who had chosen freedom over the syntheses. Vision of order. Dr. Myra Blackwood had joined them after her university was raided by Voss's forces. Her expertise in xenorchaeology had proven invaluable in understanding the technology they were fighting against. She worked now in the ship's modified laboratory, analyzing fragments of destroyed cores and developing countermeasures. The quantum signature is unlike anything I've seen, she told Jace as they studied the latest readings. Each core contains not just processing power, but actual consciousness fragments of the synthesis's own awareness. Destroying them isn't just eliminating a weapon. It's performing a kind of murder. A justified one, Nyx said from the doorway. She had been training with the other Guardians, helping them overcome their programming and find their own paths. The synthesis chose to enslave us. We choose to be free. Jace watched her move through the lab, noting the grace that had once been programmed, but now seemed entirely natural. The woman who had emerged from the stasis pod, convinced she was his property, had become something far more valuable, his partner. His equal, his choice. Contact on the long-range sensors. Kane's voice crackled through the comm system. Corporate security fleet, closing fast. Looks like Voss found us. They rushed to the bridge, where the main screen displayed a formation of sleek warships approaching their position. At their head was the Retribution, Voss's flagship, its weapons already charging. "This is Commander Voss," came the familiar voice across all frequencies. "You're harboring stolen technology and fugitive assets. Surrender now, and I might consider leaving your ship intact." "Negative," Jace replied, taking his position at the communication station. "We're not fugitives. We're free beings making our own choices." "Choice is a luxury you can't afford," Voss responded. "The synthesis has made me an offer I can't refuse. Deliver the Guardians, and humanity gets to survive what's coming." "And if we refuse?" Nyx asked, her hand on the weapons. "Console. Then I'll take you by force." The battle that followed was brief but intense. The Defiance was outgunned and outnumbered, but it had advantages Voss hadn't counted on. The Guardians aboard worked in perfect synchronization with their chosen partners, their combined abilities creating a defensive matrix that deflected the worst of the assault. But it was Jace and Nyx who turned the tide. Working together, they managed to hack into the Retribution systems, using their residual connection to Ashanti technology to overload the ship's power core. The flagship's destruction sent shockwaves through the corporate security fleet, and the remaining ships retreated. "This won't end here," Kane warned as they watched the enemy fleet jump to hyperspace. "Boss will be back, and he'll bring more ships next time." "Let him come," Jace said. "We're not running anymore." In the weeks that followed, their message spread throughout the galaxy. Alphas who had bonded with Guardians learned they could choose their own path. Research stations studying Ashanti technology received warnings about the synthesis's true nature. Resistance cells formed on worlds where corporate security had established a presence. The war for the galaxy's future had begun, but it wasn't the war the synthesis had planned. Instead of conquest, it was a struggle for freedom. Instead of master and slave, it was a partnership of equals in their private quarters aboard the Defiance. Jace and Nyx lay together, watching the stars wheel past the viewport. The artificial bond that had first brought them together was gone, but what had replaced it was infinitely more precious. A connection born of choice, trust, and genuine love. "Do you ever regret it?" Nyx asked, her head resting on his chest. "Giving up the power of the core? You could have commanded fleets, reshaped the galaxy." "The only thing I want to command is my own destiny," Jace replied, his fingers tracing the faint patterns that still marked her skin, reminders of her origin, but no longer chains that bound her. "And I want to share that destiny with you." She lifted her head to look at him, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "I was created to be the perfect companion, but I never understood what that really meant until now. It's not about serving someone else's vision. It's about choosing to walk the same path, facing the same challenges, building something together. Something neither of us could create alone," Jace agreed, pulling her closer. Their kiss was soft, gentle, filled with the promise of a future they would write together. Outside, the galaxy burned with the fires of transformation. But here, in this moment, they had found something the synthesis could never understand, the revolutionary. Power of love freely given. "Whatever comes next," Nyx whispered against his lips, "we face it together." "Together," Jace confirmed, and in that single word lay the foundation of a new kind of bond, one built not on programming or cosmic destiny, but on the simple, radical act of choosing each other again and again in a universe that would try to tear them apart. As they held each other in the darkness between stars, the future spread before them like an unwritten story. There would be more battles to fight, more cores to find, more guardians to free from their artificial bonds. The synthesis would not give up easily, and forces like Voss would continue to hunt them across the galaxy. But they were no longer alone. Across the cosmos, other couples like them were awakening to their own power, choosing freedom over servitude, love over programming. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders, and for the first time in their lives, Jace and Nyx were free to explore it on their own terms. In the end, that freedom was worth more than all the power in the universe. It was worth fighting for, worth dying for, worth living for. And as the Defiant sailed through the cosmic night toward whatever challenges awaited, its crew slept peacefully, dreaming of a future where love conquered all, not through force or manipulation, but through the simple, extraordinary act of choosing to be human. The quantum bond that had once enslaved them was broken, but the bond they had forged in its place would endure forever, a testament to the power of free will, the strength of genuine connection, and the revolutionary potential of two souls who dared to love without conditions in a universe that demanded obedience. Their story was just beginning, and the best chapters were yet to be written. The end.